pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, all. Thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate you spending some time with us this morning to go over the GM's budget with this town hall. I'd like to thank John Vial and his team. I'd like to thank Doug Parks as chair of the Budget and Finance Board of Directors and all the department heads on this collective effort on making this this process move forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John to get this started.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, so today, anybody that knows me and that's been working with me, this is a part I really like. It's one of the top 5 parts I like doing in this position, as well as working with a constructive board. And we've certainly seen that. So today we're going to talk about the budget. This is a town hall. This is for all the homeowners association, for you to ask questions, to get a full view of the budget, which is what the team and I are going to go through. We won't go through line by line unless there is a question. We've already done that with Budget and Finance, thorough scrubbing, as well as with the board. But I certainly will do that if anybody wants us to. Okay, so the first slide. At this point, I believe we have a recommended budget, and the board will discuss it or hopefully approve it in their February board meeting. This is part of the process. The key items that were addressed during the budget process, as well as it was a bottoms-up approach. Every department head, everybody on my team, our team, were involved with it in the process that we talked about. So some of the key items, and I'm sure I'll get questions on it today, and rightfully too, so is pricing. Anytime you're doing a budget, especially for amenities, pricing should be a part of the review. Salaries, well, that's a big number. If anybody's been following us for years, salaries is a very big number in the budget, especially statutory. We all know that statutory and minimum wage has gone up dramatically over the last 3-4 years. And that's built into the budget, obviously. Reserves, very important to me, very important to everybody. Reserves in our balance sheet, where we are with the balance sheet. I believe, and our controller will talk about the balance sheet today, we are positioned well for the next several years. I believe it's one of the strongest balance sheets I've seen since I've been involved over the last 20 years, no matter what seat I sat in. We've done surveys in a lot of committees and everything. One of the biggest items that has come forward to my desk is safety. We value our safety, everybody here, and I don't think anybody will disagree with that. But there is a cost to safety, and I'll talk about that today, as well as I've done in other board members. And safety is a big part of this budget, and it's a big cost, but it's a valuable cost. Capital, we'll address that. Linda will go through that. Capital is a big number in the budget, as it always is. That'll tie into a DMA study, which Steve will talk to you about, and we'll answer all questions, as that will be a part of what we do over the next year. Just some of the highlights on the budget that I want to point out to everybody is this. When you look at it, when you listen and you watch today, or if you look online, at all the budget work papers which are out there and schedules, we do show increased revenue from our amenities. I call it organic. This is new revenue we never had before. And it's pretty much across the board. But there are some misnomers out there that I hope to give you information on and facts, so that you can all leave here and make your own decision on, what you hear or what you're saying. That's something that I do want to do. I know Steve, he's nodding to me. He would also like to also. But the biggest thing in this budget is there is increased spend, especially in drainage from, I used the benchmark of 5-6 years ago before we all started here. There's increased spend in that budget. There is increased revenue. There's repurposing. There's reallocation. There is definitely economies of scale where we've had efficiencies, and that has been reallocated, repurposed within the budget. And that's how we have funded, without an increase in our assessments, the increase in the cost of safety. And if anybody has listened to board meetings or any other presentations, the percentage of our assessment for safety, just in general, from 5-6 years ago, Steve helped me out, somewhere around 5, 6 years ago, 24% of your assessment was for safety. We are projecting it, we're seeing it well over 30%, if not 34%. Am I in the ballpark?
Yep.
And Steve gives me KPIs on that. And again, all for that, that's what the surveys have said, that's what the committees have said, the board, all within an assessment that has decreased over the last 4 or 5 years, and certainly with this recommended budget. That's a low assessment. Turn the page. So the infrastructure, again, Steve will talk today. He'll show you the schedules we do, the analysis that we do, that we present on roads, bulkheads, drainage, and capital replacement. All have been jump-started from 5, 6 years ago. We continue to spend either at the same level, if not higher, but definitely higher from 5 years ago, especially drainage. When I talk about drainage, and we talk about drainage today in a reserve account, that was something that wasn't there 5 years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And now we currently spend over $200,000 on that drainage. And this is different from the ditches, different from what Eddie in Public Works does, and that's a totally separate budget. But this $250,000, again, repurposed money without an increase in the assessment over the last 4 or 5 years, really focused on the key, at least what I believe and what I was told and what I didn't see before, the key parts where the drainage was blocking up. The main pipes that hadn't been touched or serviced 20 years, 30 years. I mean, I was back on BNF when we were looking at the one pipe or the 2 pipes at Mumford Landing, and all I saw was meetings after meetings and a cost of $450,000 and some minor repairs. Well, we've taken care of that for Eddie, what, $60,000, $70,000. Tremendous help on drainage. That's just one item. There's many, and I'll talk about them all today, or Eddie and Nobi also. So that's built into that budget. The balance sheet and the DMA study, we have Steve. Steve, excellent with it. Steve will talk to you about that. He's got some bullet points on it. Him and I go through this all the time. But the bottom line is the balance sheet. Balance sheet is the strongest I've seen. The balance sheet has positioned us for the next 5 years, if not more. And that's what I've heard from the board is we're in this for the long term. And I welcome that type of policy or instructions to me. I can do short term. They can do short term. We can bring you an assessment of, I don't even want to say the numbers, but we're in it for 5, 10 years. What are we then going to have a spike of $100 next year? And we have a DMA study at the end of this year, which is very important. And that'll give us, I'm not even going to say the guidance, what we need to move forward for the next budget. Tactfully schedule it for November, which will help me, help us, help the board, the committees. BNF will definitely be involved as we were back in 2016-17. Doug is a link to back then. I know he was on the board when I was on BNF, where we will then know for the next budget and where we're at, and it will be reflected in that next budget. Initiatives, we have a lot of, we have some really good designs now. Vista has, as we move forward on it. The Tiki Bar, you've heard a lot about that lately. The expansion of the Tiki Bar. The second one over, that's what it'll look like. To the left is the diagram, fully vetted with the Madwad company and total input on the inside of what he needs as far as ice makers and other electrical units. It will serve increased capacity at the pools as well as the yacht club. So if you look at the line on the first slide towards the window, that's what will be where the pool area is. So you can see increase from where it is now, over double. And then all the rest of it will serve the yacht club. All the way over to the right, and I know I've gotten a lot of emails on this and everything and questions from the committee. Well, that's the design, the sketch that Frank Brown did. We are now working with Vista on that. Hopefully the next week or two, we'll have similar designs that we have for the Tiki Bar. We are scheduling both to try to be done by Memorial Day. So far, we're on track. But that is the detail on where we are for a increased restrooms, increased pro shop, increased area for the pro shop lead, for the lead of racket sports. All what I heard from the committees, and I heard many different things from the committee, but I believe we've captured what the majority wanted at the time. The Veterans Memorial Pavilion, we're working with the Veterans Memorial Committee. There will be a gazebo, I have some sketches there. It may look a little different than that, but we're working on that also. And as you all know, we're in the process of contracting with the Whaling Company. Okay. Anybody have any questions before I get into some slides and the team does? Anything anybody wants me to touch on? All right. Sure how to read that, but I read it as positive. So on the first slide, and I can't see behind me, but Linda's helping me out here, is the estimate budget comparison. These are all slides that you'll find online. I don't want to put out something, but I went to a forum and I clicked on an advertisement and brought me right in there. It was the easiest way for me to get in there. Compliments to that forum and compliments to my public relations team that put that on there. So real easy for you to find it, click on it like I just did in 2 seconds there. So the first slide we have today is the estimated budget comparison. Anytime I do anything or whatever, you want to see where we are today, what our recommended budget is compared to the forecast for this current year. And that's a forecast, which is an estimate. Since April 30th is the final fiscal year, as well as the budget last year. And again, this is what we heard from the committee, from the B&F committee, and how they want us to proceed. So we have that here. Steve and his team has done all the calculations. But if you look on this slide and you look at the total revenues, and then this is my new phrase, the numbers are very telling. And the answers are in the numbers if you analyze it correctly. But if you look on total revenues, and you look for the budget of 23-24, the total projected revenues were $16,593,000. Yet the budget for 24-25 in total is $18,513,000 with a lower assessment. Sounds good to me. When you look at the forecast of what we have here that Steve calls estimate 23-24, we're estimating, again, it's not actual, we're estimating about 18.6. When I do this, what I've instructed to my team are the ones that constructive is that, look, the biggest thing we have here is the weather. Right? The weather, if we lose a weekend at the golf course, it could be several $100,000 of revenue, a particular weekend. Same thing with the marina. I know Ron told me it was probably a record breaking. How many small craft warnings did we have this year?
76.
76. And that's big, especially when you're dealing with a 16-week, right, that I call is our time. So we look at what we're forecasting for this year. And again, the marina number is probably pretty close to actual since obviously we're closed now. But we look at that, we look at the prior budget. The point I want to make here, and I do get feedback, I do get emails, is, we have this favorability. And I will use the word favorability today. Why do we have that? Oh, we're not budgeting correctly. Well, as far as I'm concerned, what we're seeing and what's trending, if we're above the prior budget, and we're pretty much in where we're forecasting the current year, I'm looking at the weather, what kind of weather I had this year. And that's just one of several items, and I'm not going to get into all of them today. And that's how I look at the budget. That's how the team looks at least the team that's in here today. So we do that. We don't build for, we're going to have favorability, or the word I don't want to use surplus, because the favorability that we have, and Steve will also talk about that, that's built in. And if you were here last year, you heard me say a commitment. Of course, it's up to the board that favorability we had last year, the right way to do it, and I'm going to tell you the same thing this year, was the way I do it and the way Steve does it, is to realize that favorability. If you have it, realize it. And we will realize it once the auditors come in and they bless it. And then that will be rolled over and will be utilized to fund drainage, next budget, and other items and initiatives. The next caption, total expenditures. And again, what I said opening up, if you look at the prior budget, it was $16,593,000, and now it's $18,513,000. It's a big increase. So the favorability, the money that we all hear about, and we hear different things, or at least I hear, some of them amaze me. It's being reinvested with a lower assessment. And you can see we're above what we forecast for this year, which is above the prior year and the prior year and the prior year. Real good trend to me, lower assessment. Next one is the departmental summary page. People say to me, why aren't you budgeting to a zero budget? Steve, is this zero budget, the schedule?
Yes.
Zero budget. You know why I know it's zero budgeting? Because it says zero. So we do. Okay? And look, I get it. The people that are saying it, whatever, I get it. I sat in the back there 20 years ago. I came to these type of meetings. I couldn't figure out what people were saying or whatever. Of course, there was a lot of negatives back then, but so we do budget that way. And of course, anybody can pick any of these numbers. I myself, and you can say, hey, what about this? What about that? And we're here to answer those questions today. Remember what I said, numbers are telling. That's my new phrase. If you peel them back, if you want me to peel back any number, I will, depending on how granular you want. I have all the experts here. They're all here supporting this budget and supporting us. Turn the page. Departmental assessment. Hold on, sorry. Assessment rate. So Linda's going to read these to you. I made the mistake a couple of years ago. I didn't mention anything about the bulkhead, nor did one of the papers. I'm not going to say which one, but he didn't do it either. And we don't want to make that mistake again, nor does he. Lynn's going to read the assessment rate, recommended.
Yeah, these are proposed assessment rates. Non-water 850, non-water estate lots 1,275, water lots 1,465, water estate lots 2,198, water non-bulkhead 940, and water non-bulkhead estate 1,410.
Okay, so a gentleman came up to me at one of the meetings the other night, and he was asking me, and he wanted to know why the assessment was going down for everybody except himself. And I get it, and I understand what happened. He had read somewhere where that if you had a bulkhead, there was no change. So you got to break it down into two parts. Obviously, if he's bulkhead, or if you're a bulkhead, which means you have a bulkhead in the back of your house, you're going to pay the $850, again, proposed, and the bulkhead rate stayed the same, and it hasn't changed in how many years? No, before? Let's use the 3 or 4. I'm in the ballpark. And again, credit to Eddie, Noby, the entire team there, and credit to the board who has given me approval to move forward a little earlier than certain times in the past so that we can lock in contracts, lock in rates that have helped us to keep that rate at the same price. So if you're somebody with a bulkhead, you're going to pay the $850, right? Plus the bulkhead rate, which is $615. So there's no change in the bulkhead rate at $615 from last year, which is a good thing. But you are going to get the decrease, just like somebody like myself that doesn't have a bulkhead, the $850, which I believe that decrease is somewhere around 33. But Steve will talk about that. Any questions?
Going back to what you said earlier about you mentioned the letters DMA, I kind of doubt that many people are aware of what DMA is or what the importance of that is, but it has a dramatic impact potentially on our required assessment, our required reserves. Could you explain a little bit about that and what's happening with regard to the law?
Sure.
What the potential?
Yeah, no, it's an excellent question, and he's right. Joe's taking the approach. Hey, that's a big piece of everything, and we are going to talk about that today. But today, right now, is the best time. So, how many people really want to know a lot about DMA? How many people know a lot about it? Okay. All right. So, Steve, look, we can do this now. So, back in 2016, 17, I was BNF chair at the time. I think Doug might have been the president or whatever. I know Dave Stevens, a credit to Dave Stevens as well as many. Dave came to me and asked me, we got to do this study. I thought it was a very valuable tool then, and I definitely, there's no doubt about it now, and I'll tell you why, and Steve will. But this is an outside independent contractor, certified, or has the experience in this type of work, will come in and they will review our assets, our fixed assets. They look at it with components. So when you, and I'll talk more about it, but this building is in the DMA study. But if you go to the DMA study, you're not going to see clubhouse and a number to replace it. You're going to see components. And there's a lot of components. And every component has a different maturity date or take out of service date. The air conditioners might be, and don't hold me to this, they might be 10 years, the roof might be 30 years, the windows could be 50 years, and that's all in there. And it's one big calculation, and the binders, probably about this big, telling us how much is depreciated or how much of that, and I really want to give you this as opposed to depreciating, how much we should have to replace that asset. So Steve, I'm going to ask you to give an example. I know somebody, and I don't see him here, and sent us a question on it with an example, and I'll let Steve do it for you. But if I have give you something simple. If I have something that costs $10 and it has a 10-year life, in the 4th year, Steve, how much should I have in reserves?
$4.
So you should have $4 times the percentage, right? Am I right? So Steve knew I was going to do the second part. Times the percentage that we've, in the past, of which the board approved on a recommendation of BNF in the past, we wanted to be somewhere around 28%, which kind of was blessed by the DMA individual back then. He wanted us to work, this is the other thing, he wanted us to work towards that. We weren't there. And we've been working towards it. So if we said we wanted to be, just for simple math, 25% reserved, then out of that $4, I would have $1. Did everybody get that? Because this is big. And believe me, when you get into the binder and everything, it's a little more. So that kind of puts it in perspective. Steve will talk more about it. So back then, in 16, 17, Steve was new. I think we had about $4 million, $3 or $4 million. We had no money in the road reserve. That came up, and it came up back in 2021 when we brought them in to do a light study, DMA. And BNF spoke many times about the roads and how we had to have $1 million in the road reserve. Well, we're kind of close. Depending on when you look at the reserve, we have $1.1 million. But what I remember from Doug Green, Doug Green at DMA, he was looking for us to beef that up. Now, we had different opinions back then. We did go to the $1 million. I did do that. BNF guided us. Board approved. Many board members wanted also. But we said we would get $350,000 a year, which we get probably some more, and we utilize that for the roads. If you look at roads, and we have 84 roads, 84 miles of roads, I kind of figured over time that we're pretty much can handle it. But I don't know what this gentleman is going to say when he comes back in. I heard him say last time 2 million. Now, last time the board pretty much had the final say, and they made the right decisions. We were going to build up this reserve. We were going to work at it. I had asked for 5 years. We're kind of there. We'll talk more about that. I don't know what he's going to say. I'm not going to deny that I have reached out to him. I have been talking to him. But that's something right there, you know, to repair or replace 84 miles of road at the estimate. I think now we're estimating $150,000 a mile. If I had to do all the roads right now, how much is that, Steve?
$6.8 million.
So we would need, oh, you're right with that because I don't have my calculator. So it's 8 plus, I think it's a little more, but we would probably, obviously 100,000 times 84, is that 8 million or is that 80,000 or 800,000? It's 8 million. So that just gives you an idea. Again, the roads are not going to all come due to be replaced in 1 year. The other good thing, what we've discovered over the years that I've been here, and Eddie will tell you this, it's the first question I ask when we bring in the outside contractors, and we've had a steady 3 miles plus that we've replaced each year, is tell me about the base, the sub base. That is very important. And I couldn't have got any better news from Eddie and them that the sub base is excellent, very good. So am I correct on that evaluation, Eddie? And when we did this building, we were pleasantly surprised. I remember Frank Brown and us, Bill Stamp, the foundation on this building, under this building, Doug was there, is excellent, excellent. If you got a strong foundation, you're going to have a strong building. You can put a strong building if you don't have a good foundation. So anything we've seen that's come from the 70s or whatever from the beginning, they knew how to do it. So I believe that helps us, that we know something like that and how much money in the roads. But again, that individual, and Joe, you can jump in or whatever, that individual comes in and says, you should be at this. Well, we can discuss it, we can debate it, we can give them facts like that, but we don't have where we were 2016, 17. We would either have to come up with a plan, or if we don't adhere to it, well, then we would be in a certain category I wouldn't want to be in. Does that make sense, Joe?
Well, you kind of got into the weeds.
I definitely wanted to hear that, thank you.
And big picture thing, and I believe the big picture is that under Maryland law, our reserve study person must certify that we meet the requirements for reserves under Maryland law.
Correct.
Under this new law.
Correct.
Right now, we're at around 25% of our, 30, whatever it is.
Correct.
Of our total assets that we have in reserves.
Correct.
The $1 and the $4 or whatever it is.
Right.
There's a potential that the reserve specialist could say you need 70%.
Yes, sir.
If he says that, we need to raise a lot of money.
Correct.
So that was the issue I was bringing
Yeah.
up, and I don't think people fully have a grasp on the potential
Yeah.
of what may happen here in the fairly near future.
Yeah, so and let's talk about what Joe said, because Joe's spot on. I do believe they needed the detail because they're not all as astute on it as you are. But with that said, Joe is where we should be at. And look, I got to be honest with you. I remember back in 16, 17, and I remember him saying a percentage like that. And then we worked through it over X amount of days. I got to be honest with you. He may start off that way again. I'm being honest. And you're right. If it's 70%, it's millions of dollars. I'm not going to say I anticipated. I believe we had mitigating situations and all that stuff. But that's a possibility, Joe, and I'm glad you're the one bringing it up and not me. Yes. Aaron.
Hi. In light of what you just said, still feel secure in the decrease in the assessment.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's excellent. I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come forward with it. First of all, there is a mindset change that has to change within Ocean Pines, and this isn't the only reason. But we need to understand this. The reason I'm scheduling this DMA study in November, which we still have another year because we have to be within 5 years of doing it. And by the way, we are way ahead of other homeowners associations because we already have a study, plus a light, and he's told me that. I believe we are. I believe we're positioned well, but we'll know then, and we will come up with a plan that I would recommend either way. You know, I have some people hit me that, you only need 4 million, or you only need this, you only need that. I believe we're positioned well, but it is a possibility. I don't think it's going to be that 70%. I really don't. I think, I know what I think. I've said it, where I believe we need to be. But if he does come in with a higher number, and let's say it's lower than the 70%, but higher than where we're at, obviously we would come up with a game plan and a recommendation and how we would fund that. That's how I would approach this over a 3 to 5 year plan, which us would discuss with him. Does that help, Karen? That's an excellent question. Sir.
This is the first town hall, so there are things that you want.
Welcome.
I apologize, but, so does the association, the administration use KPIs of similar HOAs? Compare like expenditures, are we in ballpark? If we need to reduce expenses, then that become a push money.
Yeah. So, and I just think it's my fault. If you can, please tell us your name.
Terry Gordon.
Terry Gordon, and your address.
226 Needle Circle.
So, and I do have people, and I know there's somebody up online that's jumping up and down. We try to look at others. I can tell you this, in our reserves, and again, this is an opinion on what I've read, and even speaking to the gentleman from DMA, I think we're ahead of a lot of other homeowners associations. I really do. But again, we'll know more somewhere in November, December next year, which would be right in the time when we'd be working on the next budget and some type of plan. We are definitely positioned better than the majority of homeowners associations, per my discussions, early discussions with the gentleman from there, as well as other people who have, who work here or are in other homeowners associations and who are going through this study right now. So I've been asking them what their experiences have been on this and how they've approached it. So bottom line is I think we're positioned way better than many. Okay. Do you have anything that you know of or anything that you can share? Maybe another homeowners association or anything?
No, it's just, you know, in my former life, when I worked, we went out and got KPIs of similar
Right.
organizations.
Right,
So
so
we
do I.
can compare our line item expenditures on a percentage basis, because dollar to dollar doesn't tell you what percentage wise.
Right.
And you can see how you perform.
Right, and somebody here would tell me, you know, John, we're kind of unique to other homeowners associations because we're more like a municipality than a homeowners association. I see Debbie, and Debbie has said that to me. We do, every department head, when they come in, I ask them, you know, especially our surroundings, you know, what they see, what they benchmark against KPIs. So we do that. I utilized my last phone call with the gentleman from DMA to ask him that question, which he supplied some good information, as well as a prior board member who is in another homeowners association and is going through the study right now.
Thank you.
Yep, no, thank you. Come on, more questions is better than me talking about numbers. Sir. Name.
Carriage Lane.
Hi, I know you, yeah, go
How you
ahead.
doing?
Good.
Yeah, I'm not real familiar with what you're talking about, but I kind of understand what you're saying. I think you said it was current percentage was around 28%.
The percentage, yes, the gut, yes, go ahead.
So if it's 28% now.
Right.
Why is it realistic to think that it would go up to 70%, or would it maybe go up to 29% or 30%, which is a more reasonable, to me, it seems a more reasonable adjustment to what your professional firm, and I don't know what kind of firm does this type of thing, probably an engineering firm or something like that. But wouldn't it be realistic to think it might go up 1% or 2%, which might mean, yes, it has to be worked into the annual assessment, but to think that it could go from like 28 to 70%, I mean, if that happened, then I think you need a different firm. Because somebody screwed up somewhere. Anyway, that's just my comment about it.
Yeah, so let me just, first of all, again, excellent questions. I actually like this better than me reading numbers. So, yeah, let's go back to 2016, and look, if I'm off a year or 6 months or whatever, back then there was no regulations. And I'll ask Joe to jump in here. I know I've read it on this floor. There was no regulations. We were ahead of the curve, asking an independent to come in here to give us guidance, and I'm glad we did. He did say higher than the number we had, but again, there was no regulations. The final say at that time was the board. Recommendations from BNF, and I'm sure the GM was involved. And we said, okay, and I think the number was, we had around 4 million, and we might have been lower than 20% or whatever. But I remember, because I was BNF, making a recommendation, what if over 5 years, we get to somewhere range 24 to 28%? And I can still remember him saying that was good. He never said, hey, that's the end all or whatever. But at that time, and that time with the regulations, that was good. The board felt that was a good spot to be in. We had a 5-year plan, which we've achieved, and maybe at the end of this year, we'll be a little higher, which is, I think, a good thing. If he comes in and says 70%, again, the landscape's changed. And I don't think he will. He may start off with that, and obviously, he's probably going to be listening to this, but I can tell you, I heard that percentage, and I believe Steve was in the room. I heard that on a phone call. But then again, then we started talking about, different things about our roads and our sub-base and some other things. And I truly believe it's going to be less than 70%. Also, from what I've heard from where they are working in another homeowners association, they didn't come in at that percent. They started off there, but they didn't come in. That's the best I have right now. I believe we're positioned way better than we were at any point in time. in our history, and I've been going back on this stuff for 20 years, if not earlier. Would that help? Excellent question. Anybody else on it? Joe, you want to add anything on it? You want to add anything?
70% comes from recommendations that are made by homeowner association groups across the country. That's where that number comes from. It's only 4 every year.
Right, right. So look, and I hope you all come when we have these meetings. I will fully vet with Steve, Linda, and the team with BNF. After we work with them, I can tell you this, the team, right after we finish this and this budget gets approved, whatever way, all the department heads, in addition to their normal activities, will be what I call scrubbing, the DMA study for their operations, their assets, so that we us are ready when he comes in, because I want to have my numbers, I want to have my answers before he even gets in here. Now, the good thing is from talking to him, Steve, why don't you jump in so I can just look at him. Tell him about this beta and what we're going to do with DMA over the next 9 months to prepare us for November.
Right, so the DMA model today, basically DMA runs all the numbers within their software. So the new beta model is going to allow us to have the real-time interactive access so that we can actually upload our numbers into the system, have real-time changes on a daily basis so that we can monitor it, more on an ongoing basis, have better visibility to it on a day by day. I can monitor it versus the fixed asset software that we have so that we can tie in our general ledger to the reserve software as well.
So in another life, I've worked with companies that started with new software or whatever. I've always signed up to be beta on that because you learn a lot with them. You also get a better price from them. So I take this seriously. Stephen Linder and everybody else on this team takes it seriously. I feel we us have a department head roster that has a lot of knowledge, history. I mean, Eddie himself has been here 20-something years, Nobi, Debbie, I can go on and on. And we're already looking at this stuff. All right, Karen.
You said that the department heads are going to scrub the DNA to see.
I just said that, right? I can still hear it.
Right?
Yeah.
Who's going to do it for the record center?
Debbie. No, I'm okay. So for the racket center, there'll be several people. You'll hear the name Eddie several times since Eddie has been a part, him and Nobi, one way, many ways on any fixed assets we have here. Eddie will be, along with the that I designate for racket sports, myself. I think I would probably, this whole process at a certain period, Karen, reach out to the committees to give me somebody or, 1 or 2 people to also be involved with it. I'd like to see that towards the end, not from the beginning, but yes, I would like to see that across the board. Yep. Good question. Nobody over here has a question this side. No, I'm losing people here. All right, with that, let's go on. What's the next slide? Assessment summary, Linda, please.
Budget, we have general operations at 800, up from last year, or proposed up from last year. Subtotal 640, reserves 210, bulkhead differential, of course, 615, with the waterfront lots being 1,465. So the 850 for non-water lots, and then 1465, and that's what John mentioned earlier. 615.
Assessment detail? Yeah.
Okay, let me just substitute.
Oh, hold on one second. Next slide is assessment detail. Linda wants to do the slide. Linda.
Okay, assessment detail. For the proposed 24-25, we have a total general operations of 800, amenity operations 161, reserves 210, non-waterfront lots, again, this is showing the 850 with the bulkhead differential of 615, which leads the waterfront lots to 1,465.
So if I get you, and obviously there's your 33 or whatever, the dollar decrease. And let me just, let's just talk about the variations on that budget to budget, right? So this gives you the detail where the increases and the decreases are to get to that. Now, one of the things I just wanted to highlight is you've all heard me and some have mimicked, not in a bad way, that I called, first of all, we operate on all cylinders. I've been saying that for 5 years. Golf, quite honestly, today, this past year, is the economic engine driving this place and the change into the assessment. And there's other items, and that's a fact. But if you look at that $13 of favorability on the assessment just from the last budget, that's very telling to me, very telling. Obviously, the police is going up, and the price of safety. Fire EMS has kind of stayed the same the last couple of years, but we had a real big bump 3 years ago. Steve helped me out. It might have been $30 on the assessment, $35, which we covered with favorability and I can't think of the word right now, but where we've gotten efficiencies in expenses. So you kind of didn't see it there. But the price of safety in our assessment has gone up. I don't have a problem with it. Okay. Next slide, reserves. I'm going to ask Steve just to go through the numbers and everything with you. What's not the next one? Pricing is? I'm sorry. We're going to talk about pricing first, and then we'll do the reserves. Okay, so on the pricing side, oh, Steve, you going to do? Nobody wants to do the pricing. I will do the pricing, of course. I don't have the eyes I had, when I was Steve's age, but I'm going to do my best. So on this pricing slide, and there's a lot on there because there's a lot now, especially with combos, and we keep adding different, based upon the recommendations from the committees, different committees. So there is a lot of different memberships here. But on the top is the memberships. And what I asked Dan to do for us, was compare it to last year so that you can see where the increases are in this recommended budget. I know I've received a lot of feedback from emails, from Racket Sports. Not sure if my wife appreciates it, but it's part of the job that I get paid for. One thing I got to tell you is I am recommending to the board. I mean, I know during the process, the department head recommended increases to pickleball. I was the department head. Remember, it's a bottoms up department head input. I'm not saying that I don't have input in anybody else, but that's the route I go. I give them guidance. Sometimes I try to, whatever. I'm not saying there was anything wrong with it. What I'm saying is this. The changes here from what we came forward on is pickleball, which was recommended during the process to go from $7 to $10. I'm now recommending to the board to go to $9. So a decrease from 10 to the 9. The platform was Karen's. So the platform was proposed to stay 7 to 7. I'm recommending $7 to $8, now changing to $8. On the dailies, and the tennis stays the same at 10. And we can talk about that because I want to answer a lot of the questions I received in these emails. So on the daily non-residents, the tennis was 15, stayed at 15, and will stay at 15 unless changed by the board. The pickleball was 8. It was changed during the proposal to 12. I'm bringing it back down to 11. And then the platform, this is for the daily non-residents, from 8, it was staying at 8. I'm changing that to 9. So I took from the proposal for the team, we lowered the pickleball proposed increase, and we raised the platform a little bit. So that's where we're at. One thing I did here was, because tennis, I was kind of surprised tennis is so much higher in the feedback, and I've heard this for years. Well, the maintenance for the tennis is more than pickleball and platform. That's a misnomer. I'm being honest with you. We have the numbers, and I have Steve and others. There is a big number that we've had for maintenance the last couple of years, and we will have over the next year. The tennis is pretty much, the maintenance has been the same. It was around 18, 19. Now the estimates I'm getting is around 21,000. So it's gone up a little bit like everything else. The pickleball courts, especially the older pickleball courts, there's a lot of maintenance. The racket sports or the pickleball community is demanding. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Demanding that the cracks be fixed. We fixed them. We've been fixing them last several years. It's a big cost to that. You want to talk about maintenance, whatever you want to call that. We repaint, we resurface them, but fixing those cracks every year, and they're going to come back. Now, the expert that we dealt with told me, and we believe, and I know Kramer talked to me, he was there, I guess, when they built these, I don't know when he was there, I shouldn't have did that, but, you know, I can tell you this, the pickleball courts we put in, Eddie, myself, Novi, everybody else, we made sure, and credit to Public Works, I wanted a good foundation in there, a good base. Eddie, how would you call that base there compared to the other ones?
Probably 3 times that.
So it cost us certain money, but again, a lot of it was done in-house. And again, that hybrid approach I talk about with the outside contractor who built the courts for us. We did a lot of work in-house. There was a cost to that, but I truly believe the maintenance of those courts, if you're here for hopefully 5, 10 years from now, you're not going to see what we're seeing on the other courts. But there is a big cost. I have in my head, and Steve, help me out. Last time we spent 70,000. Steve says at least. Look, as long as I'm in the ballpark for today, that 7,000 is a big number. So if there is this misnomer out there that the pickleball courts do not cost maintenance and tennis should be higher, that might have been true 10 years ago. Maybe we didn't maintain them or whatever. That's not true today. And in my mind, and it's up to the committee or whatever to change it, that they want this kind of maintenance, and I'm building it in, but there's a cost to it, and it's in there. We will have the company come out again, April. Eddie and I were just talking about this the other day. They will come out in April. They will do an evaluation. Based upon that evaluation, we will address those courts. Now, there is a whole grading system. There is the work they did last year, the information they told Eddie, was that, you know, what they would see over the next 5 years, how they measure a crack and whether or not, what type of maintenance is done. There's a whole detail on that. If somebody wants to see that, which I'm sure there'll be somebody, we can set up time. You can come in, I'll have Eddie, myself, or somebody else sit with you and you can go through it. But there is a process and there is a cost to it. The paddle tennis courts, I know she had cracks and whatever, I had them evaluated. Some of those cracks, he told me I didn't have to do. I told that to the advisory committees. Maybe some of them are going to come up this time. Now, I know somebody down there got energetic and fixed them themselves. And, you know, we looked at that. He told me not that we really shouldn't do anything on that, but we're going to evaluate them this year. There will be a cost, a maintenance cost. Karen.
At what point, though, does it become more fiscally responsible to do redo the job the right way rather than every year or every other year, forking over 7,000, 10,000, Band-Aid approach?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, and I understand, and I kind of cringe on the Band-Aid approach, but you certainly have the right to say that. And I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm not saying you're right. Yeah, that question has come up in my office. And I'll tell you what I heard, Eddie, you can correct me, whatever, that was over a year ago. First of all, the new pickleball courts are fine. We believe they're going to last a long time. The paddleball courts, I believe he said, good. He has the measuring for the cracks or whatever, and when he believes we would be doing it. Obviously, when I get the update in April, I'll know. He will tell us, hey, John or Eddie or whatever, or if you're an advisory committee, well, let me talk about that separately. But they'll tell us, hey, you got to do this in 2 years, you got to do this in 4 years. You need to do this right now. If they tell me we need to do it right now, and I can get somebody in here to do it, which was the issue a couple of years ago with COVID, we are doing that. Now let's talk about let's talk about tennis courts. Tennis courts are fine. There are 2 in the back that everybody knows about, that there's some type of drainage or water issue, but let's put those to the side, right? It's only fair. Let's talk about the pickleball courts, which is what I believe comes into the category that you just asked me about, and rightfully so. I'm being told that with regular maintenance, that we could get at least 5-6 years out of those courts. Eddie? Right. That's what I heard. Again, I'm going back over a year. And that's what we're going by. He did not recommend for us to rip them up. That's where we're at right now, 5-6 years. that the maintenance should be within a maintenance number. After that, and again, it's 5, 6 years ago, and I'll have a new evaluation every year. Eddie will be down there. So that's where I say. So I don't think I'm in that right now, but I could see maybe in 5, 6 years, maybe. Everybody understood that? Hopefully I didn't get in. Okay, good question, sir.
What about converting a couple of the tennis courts to pickleball?
You said you knew, right? You said you knew.
Well,
No, please, no. No, I'll answer this. Okay, sir, come on, this is somebody new, let's see what, no, go ahead. Okay, so you all heard that, right? So this has come up many times. Everything gets evaluated. I'm not going to say that doesn't get evaluated. I don't see that change. Now, we did build those 4 new pickleball courts. We just built them. It's like anything else, we got to evaluate. I hear all different things. I hear if we raise the price $1, I'm getting emails in the middle of the night that, we're going to lose many members. Well, let's see what happens on that. But there's no plans right now for that, but it's always reevaluated every year.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't play pickleball that much.
Right.
For the times I do go down,
Packed.
pickleball, yes.
How about tennis?
No.
It's always been that way.
I'm just saying,
No,
if you want to raise more revenue, because pickleball.
All right, let me
courts
answer
are
that.
full.
Okay, so, and I get it, and believe me, so, but again, I'm not saying there was anything wrong with what you said. When I do this, when we do the pricing, at least from my desk, and I'm not saying everybody's, I'm not necessarily, I'm being honest, I'm not necessarily looking to raise more revenue. When I look to raise more revenue, I want to do it organically. That to me is what I want. I want the customer experience. I want the amenities. And look, it's the board. It's not me. I shouldn't use we. I believe it. And I know this board. We want to have the customer experience, and we want to have the best possible and realistic facilities. So we're not necessarily. I also want to, and again, it starts here. It starts in budget and finance. It's the board. And we is kind of pay. We want the amenities to pay for themselves. That's what we're looking at. We're a not-for-profit. I'm not looking to make this big profit anywhere. I want it to be, or we want it to be amenity prices, which we define here, or at least it was defined to me when I first landed here, is that, look, and this is my example, if it costs $300 to go somewhere, we'd like to provide a similar customer service, if not better, for $250, $280 to our homeowners. And that's what we're trying to do. Now, and again, my opinion, that kind of got away from us for several years before the last 5 years. And we got into what I call a vicious economic cycle for here. And I'm not going to get into that because nobody told me, unless somebody asks me. So that's the answer on that. We're not necessarily, and we're not trying to raise pickleball with somebody else to make money. Now, I do have the financials in anticipation, Steve prepared for me, on the pickleball, the tennis, and the paddle tennis to give you a true or an updated number on what we do in racket sports, if asked about that. So hopefully that answered that. But no, we're not going to redo any of those courts to change them at the current time. But it's always evaluated every year.
Yeah, I would first like to thank you guys and commend you on the hard work that you've done to put this together, because I'm sure it's not an easy job to do. I'm sorry that pickleball and the racket center, which is only about between 1% and 2% of your total revenue, is causing you so much grief. But it is something that people use a lot, and they're very interested in it. And I was happy to hear you adjust the rates, although I personally didn't have a problem with you increasing the rates the way they were, because I thought, well, maybe that's going to cause us to get more memberships. The higher the rates are, when people run the numbers and look at it, they're going to say, well, I don't have to play quite as much to make that membership valuable, and we might get more members. But You know, the thing that I would like to ask, and I don't want to drag this out.
That's fine.
further,
I'm here to answer questions.
But I think the thing that most of the pickleball people have had issues with is the increase in the dues rate from last year to this year, which is between 10 and 12%, and no increase in the other three sports at all. I think that's the one thing that got my interest to come to this meeting. And I was wondering, you said you adjusted
I did.
the rates, but did you just adjust the rates for the annual dues as well? You adjusted the daily rate.
All the email, I only adjust, I'm proposing, again, it's not up to me, it's up to the board. I'm going to go forward with, and obviously they're hearing this now, with the proposal to lower what was proposed on the daily rates. We didn't get it really on the member rates, no. I mean, I know you sent me something on the, everything seemed to be on the dailies. I mean,
I don't know.
if you or anybody else, and again, not just you, the advisory committee, because everything should go through the advisory committee. If they want to send something on that, all the rates are here, they're listed. I can't guarantee, but we'll evaluate them. You know, I'm being told that they're cheaper than other places. Now I'm getting sent emails that pickleball is free in other places. It's the first I've heard that. But
Well, I think.
But the answer is no, we didn't adjust the overall.
You want to look at your market.
Oh, I agree.
Your competition, and I think our daily rates, even the way you have them raised, I thought they were still reasonable. But yeah, there's places you can go and play for free, and you're not going to be able to make a free rate, daily rate. But what you have is opposed to like the place like Sea Colony where they charge.
Yes,
It's not out of line at all.
correct. And that's what I've been, the people, the KPIs or whatever, the benchmark, and I've heard numbers from these other places that you mentioned, yes.
The biggest gripe that the pickleball players have is the increase in the annual dues. When we have to absorb, when the pickleball call center is providing most of the profit in the racket center, it's providing all the profit. It's offsetting the losses of the other two sports. Why is the recommendation in the budget, and I don't, hopefully the board won't approve it, but why is the recommendation to increase only pickleball, which is the one sport that's providing a profit to the racket center?
I'll answer this.
Why are pickleball members getting penalized
Exactly.
and getting
I'll
their
answer that.
dues increased when the other two have no change?
Yeah.
I think
Okay, I'll answer it.
personally, we had a lot of inflation in this country last year.
Right.
And it would be very reasonable just to increase the rates by 2 to 4% of all the sports.
Right.
Rather than just jump on pickleball.
I understand.
Penalize pickleball.
So I'll answer that.
$1 increase this year proposed. How much?
So, yeah, so tennis stays the same, but it's higher than everywhere else. Pickleball goes from $7 to $9. Platform goes from 7 to 8. Oh, I'm sorry, the memberships, Linda will read them to you.
Associate pickleball's going from 250 to 280. Associate pickleball family 410 to
Slide up.
455. It's up. Huh? Pickleball family 295 to 325. Individual pickleball 180 to 200, and pickleball junior 55 stays the same. Yeah.
I thought it was de minimis, I gotta be honest with you.
It's 10 to 12%.
Okay, so, all right, so let me, Darrell, let me answer. And Rick is talking to me here. Remember what I said, it's a bottoms up, department heads. If I came in here and did this budget by myself, people would be jumping up and down. I wouldn't have a problem doing it, but we don't do that. The department head that I received over, and well documented in your newspapers, over 200 emails from you and many others told me, promote, have him report that I did all that. That was his recommendation. That's on video. That's in all the budget processes. That's what he recommended. That was the people's, and I had no problem with it. I gotta be honest, I'm gonna make this clear. No problem. I did talk to him. Others in the room talked about, what about this? You heard what was said by that professional that you told me to hire. You being 200 of you, several of you in here, now questioning these increases. That was the increase he put forward. That's what he put forward, and it's on video, and it's not, I can't change that. I'm just trying to change it now. That's it. That's why it happened, sir.
If he was here, we would be complaining to him too, but he's not here anymore.
No. Well, let me correct that, because anytime I say something, I know, right, it's on me. I'm not denying it. I'm addressing it. And that's what I saw, and that's what I'm saying. And I do want to talk about the comment or the statement about pickleball driving and making all this money and the racket sports and all that. And I'm going to give you the facts, I'll give you the numbers, and we can look at that. I appreciate the gentleman in the front here. Those increases, and especially I don't think there's been increases, and the next step, I don't want to say, but that's how we see it. I don't think it's a lot. That's fine if you do, you go forward and we'll let the board decide. I mean, I don't want to put it on them, but that's the next step in the process. When you say pickleball, and I get it, depending on how you look at the numbers. When you look at the numbers and you look at the entire racket sports center before depreciation, and if anybody doesn't understand what I'm saying, just raise your hand, I'll see, and I'll give a little more detail. We report, our governing documents say, for me, the GM, to report operational and before depreciation. And all our reports are geared towards that, the whole controller's report. When you do that operationally, we're basically in this budget and in the forecasted fiscal year 23-24, we're kind of basically zero. We're forecasting $4,000 for the entire racket center. And I'll peel it back. In the budget, the proposed or recommended budget, now we're estimating $2,000 loss overall. So we're not getting all this money coming in from racket sports that everybody is sending me in emails or these misnomers out there. So I do, with the numbers that Steve prepared, want to go through that with you. Now, if I add depreciation, which if we were a normal operation, and which does come up in our final consolidated financials, the racket center loses $80,000 in the proposed recommended budget that I'm talking to you today. There's a proposed loss of $80,000 overall. For this year, for the forecast, we're estimating a loss for all racket sports of $65,000 after depreciation. If you go back another year, the loss was $45,000. The year before that, in 22, the loss was $48,000. The year before that, 21, $120,000. Those are losses after depreciation. So all I'm doing here is I'm just trying to correct some misnomers out there. I don't know how they get out there, but it's on me and Steve to explain that. Now, if we break it down, pickleball is going to show an estimated, a forecasted profit this year, somewhere around $27,000. Obviously, if we're showing a loss for the year, the other two are a loss. Tennis, and Dale, I see you writing down. I'll give you a copy of this if you want. Tennis is projected after depreciation to lose $82,000. Paddle, estimated, is going to lose $11,000. For a total, hopefully that all adds up, of an estimated around $65,000 loss for pickleball, for racket sports. So that gets carried over and gets an increase to the assessment. Now, as far as the racket sports over the last 4 or 5 years, we've invested well over $500,000. I got a racket sports center there from the committees, different times or whatever. The priorities that I was able to read through it, or we were able to read through it, which was approved by Budget and Finance and the board, you wanted better restrooms. And I agree. You're going to have the same restrooms they have there. It's all on there. Way more than you have now. Pro shop, which I was told was needed in order to sell material and stuff. And that was the reason why we couldn't sell anything. So I guess a new pro shop and all new counters and everything will be able to sell stuff. Time will tell. But there it is, $200,000 worth. We also built a nice office for your pro. So stay tuned on that. So that's all in there, $200,000, which then thus would increase your depreciation, all that stuff. Hopefully that helps. I guess not.
I just have one.
No, I'm fine. I'm only 10 today. And you can, I'll give you a copy of this. I'll show you right now.
Yeah, and I looked at the numbers. I looked at them. I don't think I had after depreciation.
Right, no, you don't.
But anyway, the bottom line, and to boil it down to something very simple, is why does pickleball, which is making money and providing profit, offset the losses of the other two sports? That's what you.
Yeah, so hold on. So, again, I'm only looking at the dailies. I don't have the, and I can't. Tennis for the owners, for residents, is $10. I know that, I know. Hold on, we're gonna go, all right, we'll talk to these memberships, so I thought Joe summarized. But again, if you look at the, oh, you just want memberships, okay, but I gotta be honest with you, they're all pretty much equal for the dailies. So the memberships, somebody else help me out, I can't read them.
They're going
No,
up.
I'm talking about the profit that is generated on an annual basis. You just read those numbers off, and you said about pickleball.
Okay, I see.
I don't remember what.
Okay, let me answer that.
The big loss.
Let me make sure I got that. So what you're saying is what I'm getting in emails. Pickleball is, what you're saying is pickleball is carrying the other two sports.
Exactly. And
So
then
you want a lower number.
why does pickleball get hammered with a 10 to 12% increase? Even though it's a small number, it's still percentage-wise a big increase.
How much
Why
are the
does
memberships?
pickleball get hammered with a big increase?
But I mean, are they all the same?
When
Okay.
it's providing the income.
How much is the difference?
The profit to
Okay.
to offset the losses of the other sports.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I need help on the memberships because I can't read it. To me, the dailies are basically the same, off $1 here or there. Okay?
But we're not paying dailies.
The memberships, she's gonna do them, I can't read them. She's gonna
Okay.
do the memberships. Let's do the memberships so I can hear.
Let me just ask a question to follow up. Wasn't it the same person that submitted the increase for pickleball who would have submitted the change?
Yes, sir.
No change?
Yes, sir.
Doesn't make sense based on the budget that you're putting forward, which is already losing money. On top of that, pickleball, players used to be able to get more time inside in the evenings on weekends, and that's been cut back. Yet you're increasing the rate membership.
So, so Linda, just read the memberships. Let me write them down so I can know what
Okay.
the changes are.
Associate pickleball individual, $250 to $280, $30 increase. Associate pickleball family, right now 410 going up to 455, $45 increase. Pickleball family, 295 to 325, $30 increase. Pickleball individual, 180 to 200, $20 increase.
What about the other?
They want to compare to the other two sports.
So here you go. 10.
So can we have the same memberships and compare them like I did with the dailies?
Okay. Associate tennis family, 25. Associates tennis, well, no, okay.
Steve, can you just?
So our tennis family is $420.
So how does that compare to the family for pickleball?
So I believe it's about $100 more, correct?
It's $100 more. Did everybody hear that? The tennis membership for family is $100 more than pickleball? I mean, tell me that that's not totally opposite of what you're all, the few that are talking here. Hold on, let's just go through these so I can have it. $100 more for tennis.
Okay, tennis individual is 265.
Tennis individual is 265. How much is the pickle?
200.
Wait, pickle,
Oh, sorry, 200.
200?
Mhm.
Sir, is anybody hearing these numbers? Hold on, I'm sorry, who's the one said that? Hold on, man, I didn't call you yet. I just want to make sure. I know what you're saying, I know you're saying no. They're reading off to us numbers that disprove what you're saying, Darryl.
No, they don't. They actually prove what I'm saying.
The tennis is more money.
Yeah, tennis is not, it's not enough more money. It should be more than what it is.
Why is that?
Because, and you said it, and I didn't.
No, you can put words
I
in my
didn't
mouth.
want to get into it here, but I don't know how you can believe that the maintenance costs to run a tennis facility and tennis courts that are hard-to tennis courts is anywhere close to what it is with pickleball courts. Pickleball courts, if they're constructed correctly, there shouldn't be any maintenance costs. The fact that you guys got to go out, fix cracks and do stuff like that, that should never have happened.
I know that, Darryl. What do you want me to do about that? I wasn't here. I'm just telling you, you're on maintenance. There was somebody else in my office.
But you're saying maintenance costs for pickleball are X. Well, if the courts were constructed correctly.
I agree with
there
you.
wouldn't be cracks.
I agree with you.
But in tennis, hard tree courts must be maintained every couple of years. They've got to come in and take all the topping off and put it new down. They have to roll it with rollers every day. You don't have to do that with pickleball. So maintenance costs for tennis are much higher than pickleball. And therefore, the rate should be much higher for tennis than pickleball.
All right, so Darryl, look, that's the cards I was dealt. That's the cards we've all been dealt. I was not here. You were not here. Rick was not here. You asked me, and I'm giving you facts. That's what it's costing us to maintain them. I understand what you're saying, or, you know, whatever about that. That's what it is. I recommend that you send to me, send to the board, what you think, you being anybody, not just Darryl, or the advisory committee, and they'll evaluate it. I mean, I'm not going to go back and forth. They are higher. And honestly, and I'm a homeowner here, this all shows me there's a bigger issue down there than, you know, how much we pay for tennis or pickle or platform. We have one great facility there. We want it to be better, and that's what we're doing. At this point, there's nothing else I can give you. The numbers are all there. Send your email, which is part of the process. You can send it to me, send it to the board to evaluate what to consider for the budget process. That's the best I can do right now. I don't know what else I can do.
I
Ma'am.
think the problem I'm having is there's the Racket Center, which is one facility, and one pickleball's being upgraded a lot, and the tennis and platform are not. There's inflation for everybody, and everybody should have to share in the increase to keep the facility at the level it's at. And to tell the group that you're getting charged, but we're not going to charge them, just doesn't settle right in anybody's mind.
Okay, I know that lady. Wait, hold on. I know that lady in the back. I don't want to miss her. She did have her hand up. We're good? Noted. Yes.
Kathy Stone,
Kathy, yes.
Footbridge Trail.
Yep.
I'm at the tennis court just about every other day. And I pay for spec, pickle, and tennis. And I don't play pickle. But my money is going towards pickle. And there's a lot of us that also do that. So I don't see where our fee should be any different.
There's another point of view. I appreciate you bringing that forward. There's a lot of different point of views. Look, everything is noted. You know, I'm explaining to you the process. Next step, if you don't agree with all this, is send an email or send something. I would like to see it consolidated to me, or at this point, it's in the board's hands and in their good hands. And they'll evaluate for the next, for the board meeting, the next step of this process. Sir, Joe.
Several people, you've mentioned cracks in the court. Are those cracks in something new we built, or are they cracks in those old tennis courts that were built there 40 years ago?
Yes, sir.
Clarify.
The new courts that Eddie and I and the good people of Ocean Pines paid for, you're not going to see those cracks. That's my opinion. It's those old courts that were tennis courts that have been converted, that I'm being told do not have a strong base.
So blaming this board or this
Correct.
administration for cracks or courts were put in 40 years ago
Correct.
is a little bit off the wall.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you saying that. That's what I'm trying to say. And I have to maintain them. They want the cracks fixed. We're maintaining them. For several years, they weren't even fixed. And again, I answered the great question here from the lady here is about this Band-Aid or whatever. They're telling me I can get, Eddie, help me out, 5-6 years, and we'll evaluate every year. Once they tell me or tell us, and obviously we'll get some advice from the advisory and we'll show them the evaluations, I'll go forward to the board. And it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to put in those new courts. Yeah, I'm being told I got 5-6 years and keep maintaining them. It's just like the wood at the boardwalk at the beach club. We're going to have to replace it. I've told Rick, I've told Doug, we believe we can get several more years out of it before we spend a couple $100,000 with maintenance. And so far, we've been good, but right, it's gonna come due. Joe, I appreciate that. Hopefully, I've answered everybody else's questions. Next step, everything's been noted. Please submit your feedback to the board and/or me. All right. Thank you. What's next?
The new company.
I'll get off that. Capital summary. I'm just curious, how many people in here play pickleball? How many people here play tennis? Paddle tennis and the spec and all that stuff. It's a pickleball game. Hey, if I could, I'd be down there playing pickleball with them. I think it's a great.
Look what happened.
Right, look what happened. It was an omen. All right, that was a question. Oh, another question. Vic said I have a question.
I have a question that doesn't associate itself with racket sports. I do play pickleball, by the way.
Good.
But far from that, and I know this is probably an old topic, but it has to do with safety.
Safety.
Okay, so safety is always involved. Over a period of time, the board had recommended that you were no longer going to be going along and sucking up all the leaves on the roads and so on and so forth throughout the line, correct? You always have a certain amount of individuals who are never here, so their yards are constantly a mess, and they'll have somebody come in or they do it, and they rake their whole yard out into the street and expect that it to be picked up by the crew, right? Now, many people take care of their own property, sweep and rake off the berm, right? Whether we own that or not, I don't know whether we own that. But now we have a situation where you're not coming by, other than the parkway, to really clean any of the roads. So certain individuals like myself will be out there with a rake, raking the road, but I don't really feel it's my purview to do that, to clean the road. So shouldn't still the board or the maintenance people be coming by to at least clean all the pine needles and so on that are slippery from the intersections of the roads? We have individuals who break their whole yard into the street. A long time ago, they should have had something stuck on their door saying, "Tough luck, pal, you're going to have to get somebody to sweep this up." We're not doing it, or they should have been fined for it.
It's a safety issue.
Yeah.
Safety issue. Right. So, and I agree with a lot of what you said. The people that want to rake up their leaves like that, all they got to do is put them in paper bags and we'll take them away.
Sure.
Republic will take them away. Republic is going to increase the amount of times and the amount they take away. All they got to do is put them in these bags. So that's a, and I know we're saying the same. The pine needles, I actually got a couple emails just recently on that. So I guess there's pine needles in the road is what you're asking about. They're slippery.
And they basically shrink the road, they shrink the road up, you know what I mean? There's still, you need to have the crew go out there.
Anything we can do?
We've never done anything for it. We'd have to look into what could be done, but we've never raked the road or cleaned the road.
So Sarah, let me, and I know what you're talking about. I actually just got 2 or 3 emails on this specific thing. I don't know if you were one of them. I don't check the names. Let Eddie and I will talk, and Linda, we'll see what we can do. One thing I can tell you, CPI, and credit to this board, and I don't know where we were, I saw Elaine before. Elaine still there?
Yes, yes, the restaurant.
So if they do that and they pile up their leaves like that, CPI is addressing it. Now, I drive around at certain times. I got to be honest with you, in the 5 years, 6 years, I think as a whole, this community did a better job with the leaves. And you're right, and there's people that aren't there, and there are some. But CPI is doing what they should do with that to get them to clean it up. Let me talk with Eddie. Obviously, we're not going to solve it in this meeting. Let's look at that. I got a couple calls on it. We'll see what we can do. Obviously, if we had those big sweepers, which we don't have, with it, we'll see what we can do.
Just the pine needles, that's year round. And if you walk along the road, which are so many, or riding bikes, you can't see the holes. And if it rains, those pine needles get so slippery, and we have a lot of walkers in the pines.
All right.
And you can't see where the end of the road is. You're worried about traffic.
Right. Okay, so duly noted, Eddie and I, we're gonna look at it. We'll look at it, okay? If there is something within reason, even if it's a piece of equipment, we'll try to come forward to the board with it.
Thank you.
Eddie, yeah?
Speaking of safety, and bicycle riding, which I've read a lot about in local news articles, and it's mostly putting the onus on bicycle riders. Is there anything that can be done, especially on Ocean Parkway, of cars parking on the berm?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a white line where the bicyclers are supposed to ride, but you can't.
So the gentleman in that front seat, I don't know if he left or not, but, and Rick said, ideally, and Linda helped me out as a CPI, ideally, everybody's supposed to park in the driveway.
In the driveway.
So, no, wait, this lady's got there before, you've been here a long time. So if somebody parks two tires onto the grass, or whatever it's called, they can park there. So that is in our governing documents. Ideally, I would like to see everybody parked in driveways, but they can, if they have the two tires, and that's in our governing documents. Put two tires, what's it called, the berm or the grass, they can park there. There's nothing we can do.
Completely blocks that.
I know, but there's nothing, believe me, we looked into it, Linda, am I right? And is there a lot of it on Ocean Parkway?
It's enough that it.
There is a lot? So the other thing with Ocean Parkway, look, Dutch is here, and Dutch is I would consider a professional cyclist, not like myself. I have a Peloton. I would love.
On the parkway.
I'm the back of the pickup truck. My wife drives it, I'm in the back of the pickup truck. I gotta be honest with you, I was very, and Dutch is probably gonna disagree with me, and he's a better cyclist than I am. I was uncomfortable when I first came out here driving on Ocean Parkway. That shoulder, I don't believe, I know it wasn't designed for that. If we ever redid it or whatever, I would hope that, and this would be millions, but I would hope that we include that. I would include it. So that's where I am on that. Now, Dutch, I know you mentioned, so everybody know Dutch? Sir, you know Dutch? Dutch, professional.
It's very safe, you got a creek for. The problem is today, well, the chief wrote a nice story a couple of weeks ago. The worst places when you go on the 90th Street Bridge. From north to south, you can go over the path from the golf course. Now, if you come from the south to the north, what I do 20 yards before I get to the tunnel, I ride in the center of the street. So the traffic comes behind me, they have to slow down. If you don't do it, you stay on the right side underneath the tunnel, they pass you. And then you get an accident. The whole parkway, the bicycle ride from north to south, and what it is, it's very safe. We had only one time problem with a guy with the car. We had to call the police. But what is going to be the problem is the electric bike. We had that. These people come, you ride 15 miles, they come 28 miles. They don't even let you know. And then they pass you to go, you ride with two guys and they go in the middle from you. That is the problem. And I think so the chief made that clear in his write-up.
Chief, everybody know Chief Robinson?
Should I ask? Better that we don't know the chief.
That's a good point. Chief, what do you got? What do you got on this?
Well, I'll say it, I've been out here personally running radar, I've been personally going out the road, and I don't feel that it is dangerous per se for a bicyclist. Bicyclists do have 100% right to be on the road.
Could you just
They're
show me?
considered a vehicle. There are
Just show me.
United States statutes, and there are state laws that govern when you're passing a bicyclist, how far, what leeway you gotta give them before you come back in front of them. So, we really haven't got, since I've been here the last 6 months, haven't gotten a lot of complaints about, bicyclists, personally having any issues. I don't think we've handled any accidents on bicyclists, but we are in lookout and
Steve,
we're
how
working
much?
on a traffic station.
No, that's
right now,
operational. We want operational.
making sure that pedestrians and bicyclists are going to be safe going forward your ocean lines.
We should break even somewhere.
Any other questions or?
Yeah, but I gotta subtract some numbers.
I keep the traffic, supposed to go off. Lights and the traffic.
Did somebody work up the number for me?
Bicycle can legally be in the traffic lane on the right.
Okay. Let's,
Do that four-way stop.
contract here.
Right.
What's that? That's what we,
They have to go.
That's what we're making.
They have to stop.
what, this year or the budget?
Bicyclists have to stop for the stop sign, have to stop at red lights.
Yeah.
They have to be, they have to comply, they're considered vehicle that comply with every single rule that are guarded.
Is that the budget? Budget 24, 25, so it's breaking. $114. If we appreciate. Okay. So let me just, and I apologize if you can hear me, if you're online. I'm getting, the question online is they want to know how much money golf is going to lose. I would, and this is a question that I could see, but quite honestly, falls under the category of mindset change. So the last annual report that we have, which is for the 22-23 year, golf after depreciation had a negative $44,000 compared to 8 years ago, 10 years ago of like $1 million loss. Golf is projected operationally, how much, Steve? 300,000?
$314,000.
So operationally, now, golf is going to show a forecasted profit, operating profit of 314,000. Now, to compare that to those racket sports numbers I gave you, which was basically flat before depreciation, they are 314,000. Okay? Put something in perspective. If you take what Steve and I are projecting, just us talking the last couple of weeks, we believe we're going to kind of be flush with depreciation, and we foresee in the next several years a positive number after depreciation for golf. Whereas, I don't know, 8-10 years ago it was $1 million loss. So to put it in perspective and to answer that question, yeah, I stand by it. Golf is the economic engine driving our assessment. Kathy. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Paula, Paula, Kathy. Paula, how are you?
I don't play golf. I don't play pickleball. I don't play tennis. I play paddleball. Okay? And I'm looking at that 400,000 or whatever that increase is going to be for that building with the restrooms.
Right.
And I'm wondering if the people that utilized it were hit with the cost of that. Okay? As opposed to me, I have no objection. I live here. I agree. The amenities should be for everyone. They should be updated as we need them. But I don't see that listening to people not realize what their costs are doing and trying to force it back. I was here with the 8 or 10 years ago where everything was terrible. And we never knew what we spent for anything. But if you didn't build that building, would my assessment go down more? I mean, why aren't we hearing that type of comment? We need to really realize we are a unit.
Right.
And we all support everything.
Right.
So your $400,000 building is a little bit of that assessment that maybe I would have had to pay less of.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to all look at that in the way that it is.
Yeah.
That at 10%, our trash went up $9 a quarter. That's $1.50 a week. Okay? So I live in the next door. I see it in the papers. But I still think that you need to realize that it isn't a personal thing. It's part of your contribution to the whole.
Right. First of all, well said. They're good to have all different perspectives while we're here. Obviously, this room is skewed, and there's nothing wrong with that. I expected it, but thank you. Karen?
Just for the record, what's the number to do the renovation on the building?
So the estimate on that is somewhere around 150,000.
Okay, so I'll take it back from the full range. Okay.
I have another question. As far as depreciation, when you replace an item, is this how it works, that over time, each year, there's more depreciation?
So it's a good question. I'm going to ask Steve, and again, remember the DMA is more about contribution. Steve will be the first one. Steve, why don't you answer that?
Yeah, from from a depreciation standpoint, Karen, we do a straight line method. So it's when you purchase an asset, it's straight line, which means it's equal each year. So no, yeah. From a DMA study standpoint, you have an inflation-based factor built into it, so it does increase based on the marketplace. So hopefully-
How does it go down for golf? How does the depreciation factor go down?
Yeah, so
So when old assets are retired, and then you have new assets, basically. So
let me answer, let me jump in. Steve did a good job. So you said what? When will it go down or why does it go down?
I thought you said that the golf depreciation
Hold on.
goes down, but if you have steps, equal steps every year
Right,
for depreciation, then.
okay, so you said it, all right, so I got it. So you're saying, sir, so you're saying that I said depreciation is going down.
You said what?
Did I say that? I don't think I said it. I don't think I said it, but I could give you scenarios, which Steve explained to you. Here's what I see with golf. Obviously, we're putting in a new irrigation system. I'm projecting an increase in depreciation for that. But I'm also projecting that with the membership increases, and by the way, we have membership increases for golf, and I don't see one person here from golf, which is interesting. We have increases put in there with that. I'm working with Bob Beckelman. We believe the increases will offset what I project as the increase in depreciation. However, and I cannot quantify it today, and it would be repurposed, the amount of labor and the dollar amount that we spend maintaining, repairing, correcting the system today is tens of thousands of dollars. That's almost going to be, at the end of the day, over 50% of what the depreciation increases. You're not going to see that because we're reallocating that to the work in the rough, the sand traps and other that we haven't been able to get to. All right, that helped? I think that, no? Golf increases, nobody complaining. Sir, Kathy, I'm sorry.
I know you don't.
No, I thought that way. I thought I was getting a little down.
I know you
You got the
don't.
same coat shirt. No, I want to hear it, that's why I'm here.
The racket center building has depreciated to nothing.
Right. So now when you put this in, you're going to have a depreciation.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yeah, that 200,000, then, again, components, remember I talked about components versus the whole building. Look, I want to make sure, look, I think pickleball is great. I'm glad we have that here. Wish I could play. Wish I hadn't made a mistake. And I want the best for pickleball. I believe this board does, as well as racket sports, tennis, paddle tennis, spec tennis, that whole ground's there. We've invested a lot of money there. The people of Ocean Pines and the board's approval over the last several years, and I hope we can continue that. Yes, those courts, I would hope in 5 years that we would be able, whenever the outside experts tell us or the advisory committee gives recommendations and they both tie in, that hopefully we can replace them. Hopefully I'm around to do it with Eddie, because I think we did a good job on the other ones. All right, can I just, anybody else, anything else? I hope I answered everybody's questions in here. Yeah, I can tell by faces. Susan, did I answer? I could tell. All right, let's finish. I don't want to set a record. I still got 20 minutes. I said it from the beginning, I'd rather have questions.
Okay, capital summary.
Go ahead. Lynn's going to do the capital.
Capital summary. Okay, this is go tie capital, and I'll do the capital detail as well. Reserves, that was tied back to the sheet that we had on the front. The reserves, we had 2,776,916. Replacement new capital, which will be on the next slide as well. Golf maintenance, 1,059,841. That includes the irrigation. Aquatics, 130,450. Police, 84,000. Recreation, 81,439. Yacht club, 25,302. Golf operations, 20,000. Racket sports, 10,000. Clubhouse growth, 5,884, with total replacement new capital of 1,000,005. We do have the roads for 350, as well as drainage for 200,000. And there's a capital summary. The capital summary, again, we have a few items. The irrigation is the main one, and as far as golf maintenance, we do have splash pad at swim racket pool. That is a safety issue. The regular pool furniture. We have a few vehicles as far as golf maintenance. 2 new vehicles for police department for replacement. We do have benches for the recreation department and a few other items as well with a total of $1.5 million.
Okay, and that, you saw the price schedules, that all ties in. So that one is just a replacement. Obviously, like she said, if you add in the roads and the drainage, that gets you to the number in the budget. Okay, any questions on capital?
That's it.
Turn the page.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, that wraps up presentation of your team, our team. As a takeaway, we will expect some type of recommendations from Racket Sports on the pricing. Please send it to the board or send it to me. We will look at it.
Do you want me to go?
Oh, we have some questions online. Eddie and I will look at the suite, whatever we need to do with those needles, see what we can do. Paula.
I didn't come here I just came to see, because I've been here 17 years, 10 part, 10 patent, and then 7 permanent. When I came here 7 years ago, I think we were, before you took over, the budget meeting used to be, the budget every month was, we have this, we spent this, we got that.
Right.
It was a 5-line item.
Right.
God help you if you ask for questions.
Right. I agree. I sat in that audience. I had no idea what they were doing.
When this happened, a lot of the newer people coming in say that you all don't put a lot into it. And I'm talking about the newer people. They're coming, and I've run into them at various places, and they say, why don't we do this or that? I don't know, what's made you stay? How good the board got to be. You got the first black ink, what, 5 years ago, 4 years ago? When we gave you the black pens? Okay. We actually awarded him a box of black pens because we always, 50 years in a row. I think you do a wonderful job, and I'm sorry they all left, because they need to realize, just like I said, we are a unit, and you're working across the broad spectrum of everybody here.
Paul, I really appreciate everything you said.
So if you really would like to read something scary, I have a copy of the forensic audit that they gave out that was done here. And if you really want to see some really scary line items and items, they gave it out because we had it here, the Maryland State Homeowners, they give it to anybody who wanted one. But you all do a fabulous job. We might not all agree with you all the time. I don't like some of the things that happen in the pool, whatever. But it's one big thing. And I think that you've united in such a way that we have gotten so far that I'm not worried about growing old here anymore.
All right.
That really have problems right now, catch up with what's happening in Ocean City, where the associations never put enough money into some of their, where they're facing a $30,000 individual unit assessment payable in 3 to 5 years. Across Ocean City, there's a ton of them.
I could do that with a short-term approach, which I would never do. This board wouldn't. I appreciate all that. I remember 2016, 17, $1.6 million in the red.
Oh, it was always in the red.
2 million retained earnings in the red. Forensic audit that cost over $200,000 and went nowhere. Money missing.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, we took care of that.
And some of the things we spent, you can't drink enough to make them look good.
Right. A golf course that was unplayable. Racket sports that had cracks that you can lose a pickleball player in them. The fences were rusted and all that, all taken care of. Aquatics, everything. And a credit, please, a credit to the homeowners, a credit to all the boards. This is what I do. I mean, whatever, it's up to the board if they want me to, whatever. We got a solid team. We developed them. Got a bunch of people. I got about 75 years of experience in that back row. We have a chief who was built for Ocean Pines. Built. Anyway, I'm not saying about the chiefs before us were very good too. So anyway, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, the chief is a resident now of Ocean Pines.
Oh, yeah. Don't tell them. They'll be following you up the driveway. All right, Dutch, thank you, everybody. A lot of people left. Darrell, thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, one thing I want to say, I've been here 32 years, and I say people, I saw a lot of things. I saw boards that were Guggenheim. We had one general manager, he wanted to break everything down, every building, he thought he was a good general manager, and I fired that guy pretty hard. We got a general manager. He runs Ocean Pine like it's his own business. He don't spend the pennies on necessary. And here you people keeping, well, the dues goes on. Well, everything gets more expensive. And look, he got 3 times or dues down. If Johnson had stayed not long, we were paying $2,000 dues. So don't complain.
And people complain about assessments.
But
They
don't
used to
complain.
make, the realtors used to have to put their assessments on their app. I noticed that fell off last year or two. So you're living in a condo in Ocean City and you're paying 18 to, some of them a lot more than that, but 16 to 1,800 for your assessment a year, if you're lucky.
1,800.
I'm not talking about the new ones, they're out of sight.
Right.
But for that, you get an elevator and a parking lot. And I'm really glad you stayed because
Thank you,
it really made a world.
thank you.
I'm worried.
Okay, so that wraps up. We actually beat last year by 20 minutes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the team, board.
Thank you for coming
That's
out.
it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.